We got to take back control of our brains. And I've been thinking about this for a while now. But I ran into a coworker today on a day off, and we talked for a few hours. And this topic is what came up. And then I sat and really thought about it. And it's amazing how much control we've lost. It's amazing how much some of us never discover our purpose because of how our brains were wired as youth. Because this process takes form in our adolescence. It takes place in our adolescence where we start to see the programming of our brains, programming of destruction, if I'm being honest, programming of sinful behavior. And it's not till we get older till we realize not, well, it's a very small group. We should realize it as we get older because we should learn things every day and want to be better. But a small majority of us are able to realize that we have been programmed, and the way we have been thinking all of our life is not right, but it's wrong. And obviously, when we go out here in society and we try to expose the truth of how our brains have been programmed and how we should reprogram them to be better, to be selfless, to be all of these things, then we get pushback because a large majority of society isn't thinking that way. A large majority of society is still programmed because, as I said, this takes place in our adolescence, from what's in the media to what's exposed to us on TV to what's exposed to us in school, the people we have to be around, uh, advertisements, like all of this stuff is exposing our brains to a particular way of thinking, to a particular way of acceptance. We are exposed early on that we're exposed early on about sex. We are exposed early on about money. We are exposed early on to be selfish because that's the truth. We're exposed to be selfish and care for ourselves first over everybody. When Christ showed us, told us, and showed us an example that it should be the contrary, that we should be selfless and care for others first before ourselves. But what we've been around, the the people in control in our society have programmed us to believe that this way of thinking is okay when it's not. And as a result, a lot of us are lost. A lot of us never recover. A lot of us are never exposed to the truth, or a lot of us never accept the truth because we've already come to the conclusion that this way is how I'm thinking and I'm going to stick to it because it feels good. But the last thing we should do is operate off of feelings, which leads me to this verse that I read earlier in Colossians, that talked about setting your mind on the things above and not on earthly things. But we're literally programmed from our youth to focus on these earthly things more than we are God. And then this is the reason that we struggle with depression, suicide rates are higher, feelings of void inside, loneliness. We struggle with all of these things because our mind is set on all these earthly things. Our mind is set on how many people, as men, how many people can we sleep with to prove something to other people, or do whatever you can to get as much money as possible, or I'm going to sit here and wait for this new TV show to come out. I got to watch every single episode. Our mind is programmed on so many of the wrong things, and the things that it should be programmed on, even those things, we have polluted, exploited in a negative way. Like, for example, something like sex, right? We've taken sex and just made it just this normal thing when sex should be something special. It should be something special. But our brains have been programmed to just go explore, go have fun with as many partners as possible because that's life. Everybody else is doing it. Just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean you should do it. If everybody was jumping off the top of Mount Everest, you'll be a fool to jump along with them. And you know that. So just because everybody else is doing something, society is pushing all of this sexualized content, this selfish behavior. Do whatever you can to get money. Don't take care of yourself. It's okay to play video games all day, watch TV all day, and do nothing else. No, this stuff is not okay. We have a purpose, and the devil is going to try to do everything he can possible to take us off of that purpose. And that includes having us not thinking about things that are eternal, things that are more important, those things that go beyond just the earthly things. I'm not saying you can't enjoy your things on earth, don't get me wrong, but when you prioritize those earthly things over everything else, like godly things, then that's when it becomes a problem. And that's why we have so much chaos, destruction, so many broken people, such a discombobulated society. As me and my coworker talked about, my friend, we talked about earlier, like this society is doomed for the worst. And it's scary for the youth because the youth, sure, like it had to stem from somewhere, and it's always been sin in the world. Sin has always been prevalent, but with the access to technology, with the access of being exposed to anything they want at the fingertips, that's scary. That is a scary thing. A kid has to learn how to navigate that, and it's just a kid. At the end of the day, a kid is a kid. They don't know any. They don't know any better. They just go off of what they see and accept it for what it is, because they're in the process. Their brain is developing. Their brain is learning, and these freaking media platforms and all of these people are taking advantage of that for their own gain. They're exposing this stuff to the youth, and they don't care if we have a broken generation of youth. They don't care about that. They just care about what they can get. They care about the money they can, and their brains aren't even programmed in the right way. So, I mean, it's not like I expect them to preach good stuff when they do a bunch of bad stuff. But still, that just shows you how broken our society is. That just shows you how the system is so flawed. That just shows you this cycle of our behavior, our cycle of our communities of cheating on people, not wanting to be married, not valuing self improvement, not giving time to more godly things. Is just what it is. The things that God wants for us, not giving value to those things, but rather give value to what's going on with your favorite celebrity or idolizing this particular thing when we shouldn't be doing that. Yes, a lot of us have had our brains programmed like that since an early age and haven't gotten out of it. But it comes a point in time where the truth is revealed to you, and you have to accept that for what it is. You either accept it or you don't. And if you don't accept it, then you'll continue to forever be lost in this cycle. And that's not a good feeling, because if you continue to be lost, you'll never understand what the true feeling of joy feels like, the true feeling of the peace of God, the love of Christ, what that feels like. You won't experience that. And a lot of us don't even get to that point because of what's been programmed in us, and we just don't want to let that go because it's all we know. But we have to understand that that's wrong. That is not right. The Bible tells us to be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of our minds. We have to have our minds renewed. We have to take steps to reprogram our thinking, to program it in a way that's more centered towards God, but also a way that's more centered towards productive things and our purpose. So rather than you thinking it's okay to consume all of this content full of women, sexual stuff, entertainment, all of these different things, it's not. It will destroy you. It will leave you lost. You may think you're fine, but you are not fine. I'm telling you. I thought I was fine once upon a time, but now that I know the truth, I wasn't fine. Looking back, I wasn't fine, and this stuff is so detrimental that it can carry on to you forever. So what you expose your brain to and what you allow yourself to see, you can't take that back, and it's gonna stick with you. Thankfully, Christ is forgiving us for that. He forgives us for those sins and things we've done. But those things stick with you. Those things can be detrimental to your health, to your mental space. So you have to be careful with what you consume. Sometimes, like I said, when we get programmed as youth, we're not really in control of it. For example, me being exposed to something like porn, for example, I was exposed to it out of my control. Like, I didn't just willingly search it up out of curiosity. I was exposed to it in an unfortunate situation. So it's easy it's easy for us to remain in that cycle, but we got to get out. And just because society is saying everything is okay, this is the norm, these agendas are being pushed, these things are being promoted, doesn't mean they are right. It doesn't mean they are right. Just because a large majority of people are doing it doesn't mean it's right. The gate to hell is going to be wide. The path to heaven is going to be narrow. So that tells me all I need to know. That tells you all you need to know. Usually, when society is promoting something and a lot of people are following this agenda, you might want to go the opposite way for most things, because most of these agendas are pushed by Satan, and he's laughing. He's laughing because he has control. He's trying to gain as many souls as possible, and he's been around forever, meaning not forever, but he's been around for a very long time. So even though he may not be able to read our thinking or different things like that, he knows what we like and dislike because he's seen it. He's seen it all around us, and he knows the things to tempt us with. So we just got to be careful, because if our brains are programmed to notice these things, then we fall into the trap of thinking that what we saw as kids and the way we was living is okay, when, like I said, this stuff is what leaves us broken. This stuff is what leaves us depressed. If leaves us empty inside, we experience loneliness, discomfort, and we go to all the wrong things for it. We seek acceptance from people who are lost themselves. We seek acceptance from people who we think care about us but don't even care about us. We we seek acceptance from social media. No, we don't need to seek that from any of that. We need to seek it from Christ, because Christ is the one who can truly transform our thinking. He's the one who's going to help us reprogram our brain. Sure, we can take all these steps we want in terms of self-improvement, doing these things. I'm doing those things now, reading more, trying to learn new things, cooking. Like, I'm doing all this stuff, and that stuff is super important compared to the video games and videos I was watching all day, being on social media, scrolling all day. Compared to that, it is much better. But at the same time, we also need to implement God in that system, because those things can help get us out there, get us out of that. But God is going to help keep us there. And God is going to truly help in the process in transforming our minds and escaping this program society, because everything around us, even the people around us, are programmed. And the more and more I talk to certain people, I don't look as if like I'm holier than that or I'm better than them, because I was there once upon a time. But I look and I just kind of get sad for how people are easily fooled, how people are easily consumed when the truth is right in front of them, and people just don't want to accept it. And it's not necessarily always a fault of their own, but because of how the higher powers in society promoted all of this stuff to consume their brain early on and lead them towards a path where, as they got older, their mind was broken. It's easy to build up the mind of children, but trying to repair the mind of an adult is it's a hard thing to do. It's hard to do. So we got to take back control of our brains. We have to, or else society will continue to go on a decline. It will go on a downfall. We need to be more self-aware of the things that we're putting inside of our brain. We need to be more aware of what we're exposing ourselves to. We need to be more aware of the things we're doing. We need to be aware of all of this. We can't just be doing things based off of how we feel, because if we continue to do these things off of how we feel, it'll lead us to chaos, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, whatever you can think of. it'll lead us down that path in the wrong way, in a bad way. And we don't want that. So let's take back control of this, because what was fed to us as kids was not the truth. What we saw on TV was not the truth. What we heard in the music was not the truth. What we saw in the music videos is not the truth. What we saw celebrities doing and saying was okay and promoting is not the truth. It was not the truth, and it's still not the truth. None of this stuff is still the truth. The truth is above. And the truth from above is the only truth that's going to be able to change this right here. We don't have the willpower to do it on our own. I've tried it, for example. I tried it. I tried to do it on my own for a very long time and failed. It never worked out. But when I gave the problem to him and allowed him to do it, he's transformed my thinking. Heck, even the way I'm speaking to you now, I was not able to speak like this at all. I didn't have this confidence in myself. I didn't have the discipline I have now. I didn't have any of that before. But with him, he's built that inside of me, and he continues to build on that every day. Not even just on the outside, but also inside in my heart and here in my mind, because here is the most important. Do I still have struggles or urges or certain to do certain things? Of course, I'm a human being. I'm going to have those, but I don't live operating off the flesh, because if you live operating off the flesh and you give towards those fleshy things, then you're going to end up falling victim to the flesh. But if you give that focus towards spiritual things, Christ-centered things, then you will continue to walk in that way. So that's where I have shifted my focus, and I have done things to reprogram my brain in that way, whether it's looking at more godly content, listening to more appropriate music, reading certain things, cutting out TV shows, cutting out people on my social media who are provocative or lay me down the wrong path. Cutting out all the different things and applying godly things has helped transform my brain to where it is today, where I'm able to have the confidence to give what I've learned, and talk to you about it and expose to you, tell you these things, tell you the truth, because I'm going to be authentic with you. I'm not going to lie to you and be like, oh, okay, go live like the world, go have your fun, go do that. No, because that's not okay. That will have you very, very lost and empty inside. And you can try to do it as long as you want, but it's going to get a point in that time you can't escape yourself. You're going to have to face yourself. You're going to have to look in the mirror at yourself. And I don't want to look at myself and be like, oh man, I'm a piece of crap, and I wasted my life, and I got tricked in my brain. I thought this was okay, when now that it's too late, it's not okay. It's not too late. You're here another day. So you have another opportunity to change. You should want to change. You shouldn't want to keep the same brain that you had as a kid. Like, you shouldn't want to keep the same things that were implemented in you as a kid. You should want to grow. You should want to learn the truth and apply the truth to your life. It doesn't mean anything if you know this and you don't apply it, but we have to have a change in our heart and a change in our mind. We have to change what we did before from what we did before, because what we did before was not godly. What we did before was not pure. What we did before was very selfish. It was all of those things, and that's not who God intends for us to be. He doesn't intend for us to be selfish people. He wants us to be selfless, and society would be in a much better place if we were selfless and we focused on things beyond ourselves. If we gave back with the good instead of gave back with negative things, but also instead of doing things in return, like people doing things in return so they can get as much money as possible, rather than doing things because it's out of the kindness of their heart. We need more of the second option. We need more kind-hearted people. We need more loving people. But as I said, the topic of this video, our brain has been programmed to be the opposite. Our brain has been programmed to be selfish. But we can get out of that. You can escape that. You can escape that. And hopefully, if you under this video, you have the desire to escape it. So let's take back control of our brains, because it was lost early on, not at our fault. And it's lost for all of us early on by what we're exposed to. But it comes a point in time we get older and we learn of this, and you can make a change, or you can be stuck in the same endless cycle of sinless, lost, mindless behavior because it's what feels good to you. Like I said, operating off your feelings is not always the best thing to do. You got to operate off of the truth. And the truth is, we've been exposed to some negative, dark, wrong things, and our hearts are wicked and impure because of it. But with Christ, we can become pure, and our minds can become better. So let's reprogram, let's rewire, let's get away from the world and the society and all these things that they telling us is okay, because it's not. And let's focus on the godly things.